Yeah, Bohachuk. His name is Serhii Bohachuk. He is from Ukraine, Vinnytsia, Ukraine, the same country where the Vladimir Klitschko's, Vitaly Klitschko is from like Usyk, also Lomachenko, Gvozdyk, all those great champions coming from Ukraine, and now there is a new guy in town, 18-0, 18 knockouts. So yeah, he's definitely going to be doing that as well. He's going to be conquering the world of boxing in the United States.
Hey, it's great to hear that. Yes, I mean, what can you say about this boxer that eventually tomorrow he's gonna have the chance to win, to add another win in his career.
Oh, it's actually, it was crazy. When I first met him was in 2018, in the early 2018. I was helping out Tom Loeffler with some of the translation and operations for the boxers. And I remember he was just this guy, he was younger, he was just a kid. And I think at that point I asked him, like, for the records purposes, for the doctors, like, what's your, what's the score, right? Like, how many knockouts, how many fights you had? And he's like 7 fights and 7 knockouts. So I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And, since then, Tom Loeffler, the promoter, the same promoter that promotes Triple G, sort of developed him. They fought, 4 to 5 times per year. His trainer was the legendary Abel Sanchez. Now his trainer is the legendary Manny Robles. So it's crazy. He's basically molded in that Mexican style, that famous Mexican style that a lot of fighters are, showing and a lot of fans love so much. And so now with Manny Robles, the trainer that, brought Andy Ruiz to become the first Mexican heavyweight champion in the world with one of the biggest upsets in the world against Anthony Joshua. Now he's training the knockout artist from Ukraine, Serhii Bohachuk. So yeah, he fights tomorrow against Brandon Adams. This is the hardest opponent to date for him. He went 12 rounds with Charlo. He has such an amazing record, and he's a very tough challenge for Serhii. So it's a really 50-50 fight. So I'm excited to see how he performs.
Well, hey, I invite each and everyone who's gonna stay tuned tomorrow and watch his fight, because eventually, if he pull off the fight and wins, I think the doors open for him like with other fighters. I mean, eventually he's gonna have the chance for another world title. What do you think of that? If it happens?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if he wins this fight, the doors will be open for him. All the doors will be open for him for the world title. It's going to be a real step up for him. It's like how he likes to say, it's a trampoline for him. And he has a great personality as well. If you follow him on social media, follow him on Twitter and Instagram, he loves interacting with his fans. He loves hearing back from his fans. He loves texting back and forth with them. So he's definitely a very engaging fighter. He understands how to market himself. So he's not only, a great, powerful, and spectacular KO artist, he's also a great marketing mind as well.
Great. I recently watched one of his videos, and he seems that very motivated for this match. Eventually, the fight, it was supposed to happen, if I'm not mistaken, in December, right? And
Right. Supposed to happen in December, but unfortunately, Serhii tested for COVID, so that got postponed. Which, after hearing him speaking about this, he just felt like he just rested really well, and he feels so much better, so much greater. So we'll see how this gonna work out. But that's just adds to the intrigue of the fight. It's so intriguing to see how he performs after COVID. How Brandon Adams he performed it outstandingly against Dillerson on December 3rd, which was the fight that he fought instead of Serhii Bohachuk at that night on Ring City, USA. So it's definitely a great fight. I'd say we have yet to see what happens. No one can predict. It's nothing like something like, oh, it's just an easy fight for one fighter or another. It's definitely something that no one really knows what's going to happen, and that's what makes it so exciting.
oh yeah, I mean, eventually you mentioned before, and of course everyone that follows his career, and of course Manny Robles. Now he's in the hands of Manny Robles. I mean, you mentioned it before. He made to become a world champion. Andy Ruiz, and of course he has more guys in charge of bringing the best every time that every guy that it's in Manny Robles and of course Tom Loeffler. Big shout out to Tom Loeffler because every time I see him, he always stop by, make time for show love, and he's an amazing guy. He's an amazing person. And don't get me wrong, yourself too, because I've been in you've been in New York. That's how we met, and hey.
Exactly, during the Triple G Rolls promotion Fight Week. But yeah, that's what I work with Tom a lot, and I help him out, and I learned from him a lot as well because I would like to see how he does their certain things. I'm such a huge fan of Triple G, and I really wanted to see how everything is actually made behind the scenes, and he definitely allows me to see how he operates, and I really appreciate that. And one thing that he always tells me is that always speak to press. I realize some promoters say okay, we only speak to press when there's a fight coming up, or we should limit it to make some sort of a limitation for the press. But Tom's philosophy, Tom Loeffler's philosophy, is actually we have to be open to the press all the time. We have to speak to them. We have to give a lot of information and content to them because they in turn will talk about your fights. They will talk about your fighters. They will talk about you, and you will become the news. So it's definitely a two-way street. So it's benefiting two parties. But what I like about Tom is that he has his marketing mind. He always, the way Serhii operates on Twitter, for example, that's, Tom he's very big on that, on social media. He's forward thinking in that regard. So he's definitely a very smart promoter.
Yeah, definitely. He's, as I mentioned, every time that I bump into Tom, he always shows love and he always make time for interviews and everything. And even though, sometimes it's hard because everyone has to do one thing and run to the other, and he finds always time. He always finds time, and eventually we will see all these great events that he's bringing, especially tomorrow. And I want every person that is gonna stay tuned and this TV show that eventually do not miss out because hey, Serhii is bringing fireworks.
Yes. Absolutely, it's going to be intriguing. And by the way, in order to watch this fight, if you're in the United States, go to NBC Sports Network, and it's going to be there. Tune in at 9 p.m. Undercard starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Or if you're watching this internationally, if you're outside the United States, go to twitch.com/RingCityUSA. This is Ring City USA's account, and you can watch anywhere in the world for free the whole undercard, starting at 6 p.m. Through the whole end. You will see Serhii fight on Twitch as well. So you can definitely watch it for free anywhere in the world. Hey,
definitely, it's a good info because sometimes the fans, they be looking around and where do I watch his fight? And that's one of the things I always like to pull out from the fighters because sometimes they go on YouTube, sometimes they go on Facebook, or they have their own links. Hey, I think this is great for the sports, and of course, it's a great event. So I want each and everyone encouraging, do not miss out this event because from the bottom to all the way to the top, I think they bring in a great event. What do you think? I know you have more time because I seen some of the interviews that you done with Serhii. Is there did you ever ask him where does he come from, his nickname? Because I know in Spanish is El Flaco, which means in English the skinny one. Did you get to ask that question? No.
Yeah. So it's actually something that Abel Sanchez gave to Serhii. He gave this nickname to Serhii when he first stepped in the gym at the summit. And Serhii was fighting at 147 at that time. And Serhii is 6 foot tall. So he's extremely tall fighter for 147. So with his height, he was really, really skinny. And so, Abel Sanchez looked at him and said, oh, you're a Flaco now. You're a Flaco. And so that became his nickname. So that's pretty much who gave this moniker to Serhii.
Did he get used to it, to get, that people calls him like that, or does he get bothered or something like that?
No, he embraced it.
Right.
He calls him Marco. He goes by this nickname all the time. He doesn't mind at all. He likes it, and it definitely stays with him.
Yeah, I mean, that's great if he embraces it, and he liked it because I mean in Spanish culture is not really offensive. Maybe for I guess some other ethnicity maybe it's
Uh-huh.
offensive, but for Spanish people no, it is not. It's not
No, I'll
so.
tell you, he is extremely confident man, and any sort of things that might seem offensive to people or something like that, especially when it comes to nicknames that shows like, oh, you're just skinny, right? Like it's supposed to be like skinny equals like, oh, not buff or something like that. No, Serhii doesn't care. Serhii, he shows his power in the ring. He embraces that nickname and gives him power. That's what I think, because it really resonates with people. He has that skinny guy's power. That's what I think.
Oh, it's amazing that he actually embraced it, and of course he feels actually the love of not only from Spanish people but from most of the people that he likes to meet. I recently watched, if I'm not mistaken, that was a video or pictures where he was given autographs in Puerto Rico. Wow, amazing!
No, absolutely. And his last fight was in Mexico, in Yucatan, and he loved it so much because people love him so much. So many people watch it on TV in Mexico as well. And he really embraced it. He has a lot of Spanish-speaking friends at the gym, and he picks up on Spanish as well. He tries to speak as much as possible. He tries to pick up certain words. It's just for him, it's fun. It's fun to interact with people.
Yeah, great. I know a lot of people who actually love boxing, which is I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone loves boxing, but if you're talking about any specific culture like Mexican, we definitely love boxing, and when we get to see a person that embrace, I guess, Mexican style, oof, we love it. And talking about Mexican style, Triple G, what news do you have from him? I mean, because eventually, his last fight it was successfully he won, but eventually people are speaking maybe for the trilogy against Canelo. I don't know if it happens. I don't know if it takes time. I don't know if he's gonna move up to 168 in order to face again Canelo. What do you think if this third fight
Yeah,
happens?
I definitely would love to see a trilogy. I feel like that's just something that, we have to put a period in this whole thing. As a fan, I'd love to see it. I mean, I certainly don't know what's going to happen. It's definitely up to Team Triple G to decide. But I, as a fan, really would like to see. I honestly, to be honest, I would like to see Triple G in the ring as much as possible. And for me personally, I mean, Canelo would be great, but it doesn't matter if it's Charlo. That would be great. If it's someone else. I just love seeing him as a fan. I was a fan since the very beginning, and for me as a guy from Kazakhstan, it really resonates with me. So I really look forward to his fights as well.
Yeah, hopefully the fight happens. I mean, we don't know yet if that fight will take time because right now it seems that Canelo is more focused on 168 and getting all the belts. And talking about that, I mean, I bet you watch his last fight, and people are probably is not giving the credit to Canelo. And to me, I mean, he's a great fighter. That's one of the reasons a lot of people wants to go up. Some of them wants to come down and fight Canelo. I, in my opinion, I tell people it's not his fault that eventually he faced it Avnil, but he went out there to do his job, and eventually he made it happen. And but what do you think about his career?
It's funny. I understand that Avni is a mandatory, but what I've noticed is I was watching that fight very closely. Canelo was very serious from the very beginning. He was almost as nervous to fight against Avni Yildirim, and I'll tell you why I think he was so nervous or like very focused, very tense. Because it's Avni Yildirim. He wasn't fighting for 2 years. His last fight he lost. So it's like, of course you're gonna win this guy, but Canelo was still very tense. And I know why, because I feel like he is something of a perfectionist, and he knows that it's boxing and everything can happen in life. And he, for some reason, I feel like he thought, like, what if for some crazy reason Avni Yildirim will win this fight? So that's why he was focused 100% till the very end. And he was so happy and excited when the fight ended, when Avni gave up. But that's just something that I noticed, and it's not to say something bad or good about him. it's just my observation that he was like 100% in that fight. He wasn't taking it lightly. So, and I think that's respectful. Like, I honestly think like you have to give yourself 100% in the ring no matter what, and that's what Canelo did as well. I mean, he's a great fighter.
Yes, he is. I mean, eventually, many fighters are, targeting Canelo. We have Charlos, we have Benavidez, we have, I mean, most likely.
But the two of the hardest fights Canelo had was against Triple G. No one came even close to Triple G in terms of fights against Canelo. And I personally believe that Triple G won the first fight decisively, and the second fight he won as well. The second one was closer, but in my mind he won as well as the second fight.
That's one of the reasons I always tell people, we have to have the third one. Eventually, if Canelo agrees and the team Canelo agrees, hey, we would love to see this fight happens for the future. I know this is one of the biggest fights, and because once I remember when they started promoting this fight, it was huge. Especially when they came to New York, it was huge. It was a huge movement, and of course, Mexicans from one side, Mexicans from the other side, because supporting Triple G, that was crazy.
Yeah, Triple G, he has a lot of fans, Mexico fans and fans from Mexico, and he definitely embraced the Mexican style that is so beloved. And he also went to Mexico several times. He helped out. He done some charity in Mexico as well. So he's definitely loved by Mexican fans. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I spoke with Tom Loeffler, and they mentioned me. I mean, I seen pictures. I seen his interviews, and he came to Mexico to support Mexico in times of relief, because it was hard for Mexico to stand up again, and tragedy sometimes it's unexpected. So him as a champion, he came to show love, and of course, he got big animosity of fight fans, and they love him. So I remember one experience that I had from coming to Mexico. I remember that I asked people, "Do you guys know Triple G?" And they say, "Yeah, we definitely love how he comes and he approached to people." And it was a great experience when I asked. I mean, I wanted to put this on a video call, or I mean, in a video where when I was interviewing people, but they didn't want to appear on TV. So it's understandable. But I know the Mexican fans, they show love to Triple G.
No, absolutely, and that's I actually got in a lot. I'm in love with boxing because of Triple G. I fell in love with boxing because of Triple G, and that kind of inspired me to talk to a lot of personalities in boxing, to a lot of people and fighters and everyone in business of boxing. And that's how I started my podcast. It's called Azizi Podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. You can find it on Amazon Music and Audible. And of course, you can find it on YouTube. And on that podcast,